everybody. Well, thank you, and welcome to another exciting panel here in SAT Summit 2021. And we are going to be talking about emerging tech hubs. So I think we will all agree that in the current European tech ecosystem, the domestic borders are increasingly disappearing. Entrepreneurs are more international than ever. They are planning on taking their companies beyond their home markets quicker than ever. This is also having an impact in the way VC investment happens. We are seeing the emergence of regions beyond the traditional hubs, such as Berlin, London, or Paris. And this, as I was saying, has a big impact in the way VCs are investing in Europe. So we have three great speakers today coming from these non-tech hubs, and I'm going to introduce them very quickly, and they are going to tell us how they are approaching this changing landscape, how they are shaping up their firms and their investment strategies. So first, we have with us Apostolos Apostolakis. He's the partner and co-founder of Venture Friends, which is an early-stage firm based out of Athens in Greece. Then we have Marcin Kurek, who is the co-founder and managing partner of Market One Capital, which is also an early-stage VC based in Warsaw, Poland. And last but not least, we have with us Stefano Guidotti, who is a partner with P101, an early-stage VC based out of Milan in Italy. All right. Oh, hold on. We have a problem with the mic. Well, maybe we can just get started with the intros. So yeah, so guys, maybe just to get things rolling, if you could give us a little bit of a quick overview of your own backgrounds and then a little bit about your firms as well.
So yes, personally I was a founder, so I started on the operating side, e-commerce and marketplaces in the food delivery space in Greece. Gradually became an angel investor, and after a couple of exits, launched Venture Friends together with a friend of mine. In 2016. We've raised 3 funds since then, the latest being an 80 million euro fund investing in consumer, marketplaces, fintech, proptech, travel tech.
Hi everyone, I'm Marcin Kurek from Market One Capital, based in Warsaw. One of the partners also located in Barcelona. So I'm in the tech business for already like 18 years, started working at startups, then was a founder, then was business angel, and finally doing a venture fund. So I went as Apostolos the all way through at all stages of the ecosystem. We are like a 60 million fund investing all over Europe, mainly into digital platforms, marketplaces. We have few investments in Spain that we are super proud of. So thank you, and looking forward for the discussion.
Yep, and so I'm Stefano, I'm a partner at P101. I also come from entrepreneurial experiences, been involved in VC since 2011. And as P101, we are the leading VC player in Italy. We have nowadays 200 million of assets under management, invested in some of the champions in the tech space in the country, but also quite heavily invested also throughout Europe and especially in Southern Europe and Spain with the guys at Oliron and all the other great investors in the country.
Thank you, guys. All right, so now we have the foundations, and let's start with the actual discussion. So you all have rather international experiences yourselves, but in the end, you decided to launch your VCs in your home countries. So why did you decided to go down that path? What are the pros and the cons that you see in doing so? Maybe you can start, Apostolos.
Sure. So from my side, it was kind of a mission-driven decision because having been an entrepreneur, I tried to fundraise in my country back in 2012 or 13, and there was no VC money around to help us. The same thing when I was an angel investor in Beat, a company in the ride-hailing space. So when I had an exit with a food delivery company, I said, okay, there is a clear need for a venture capital fund in Greece, and that's how we started. But then soon the ambition became to do something more European. Regarding the second point, pros and cons, obviously the pro is that you feel this sense of urgency. You want to help your ecosystem. You want to support the ecosystem. And the second thing is that there are many opportunities because you're early on in an immature ecosystem. The cons are that companies starting from a peripheral tech ecosystem have less access to capital, talent, the usual things that an ecosystem in the early stages has.
Martin, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, like I totally agree with Apostolos. Like we decided to like focus mainly on Poland in the beginning because like we really thought, okay, like the ecosystem is emerging, so we could be some kind of a founding member of the ecosystem. So you're not getting into London or Paris and you are one of many, but you are the founding member. You've been at the beginning there. So I also, when I was a founder, I had to fundraise in Berlin because there was no funds in Poland. At least there was one, but because of the fact that it was one, it took 90% of equity, yeah, because it was a monopoly then. So completely ridiculous environment. So I thought, okay, like, let's move from entrepreneurship to venture and really like build the whole ecosystem. So I would say the advantages that you can really be a founding partner, founding member of the ecosystem and have a total visibility over the market and being like totally well known and recognized, which is great because you have the access to like, let's say, almost everything on the market, but it has to also be correlated with the growth of your pond. Yeah? So if you decide that this location is your core location, if this ecosystem grows, then you naturally are a beneficial owner of it. If it doesn't, then it's the problem. So I would say the disadvantage is naturally that it's harder to do like investments abroad, being from not prominent location, but it changed dramatically over the few years recently, and we are also very successful doing investments all over Europe, and half of our portfolio is already outside of Poland.
Mm-hmm. Stefano?
Yeah, so I mean, P11's history is quite peculiar in the Italian VC landscape because when we started, VC were two letters in the alphabet, and that didn't mean anything for most of the people. And actually, the managing partner and founder of P11 started the firm when he was part of the, political table that set up the political agenda and the legislation framework that set up, again, the regulatory framework for startups and venture capital in the country back in 2011, 2012. And actually, he was asked by also governmental bodies and the people that were part of that table to, well, now that we have a framework, let's try and create some vehicles to channel capital in this nascent ecosystem. So we've been at the very roots of the Italian ecosystem, and as has been said, I mean, being the first one in the space, in the room, has advantages because, I mean, of course, at the beginning, it's a buyer's market. You are the only one, founders go to when they look for funding. But then you need to be able to foster the ecosystem to help entrepreneurs, companies, and the whole cultural movement grow. Otherwise, you keep being a big fish in a small pond. That doesn't make sense in the long run. So you definitely need to be actively involved in everything that raise the bar of the whole ecosystem. Again, from a cultural, quantitative and qualitative point of view.
So at the end of the day, you guys have been pioneers to some extent in your respective countries. So it's opening the door for others to follow.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for that. So let's touch very briefly on COVID. I guess everybody, or pretty much everybody, has discussed this in a number of panels. But obviously, we all know that COVID has affected us in many different ways. But for venture and for the tech ecosystem in general, it's been a bit of a tailwind or a big tailwind in general. So in your respective countries or in your respective experiences, how has COVID impacted you guys? And do you think that the fact that you are based outside of these main tech hubs, the impact may have been different from being in London or being in Berlin, just to mention a couple. Martin, if you want to start maybe.
Yeah. Sure. So like we really like had an internal discussion recently what changed like from the venture funds during the pandemic, during the COVID, and how it impacted especially our fund and the funds that are not located in Berlin, London or Paris. So saying honestly, like 3 or 4 years ago when I had a call with a company from London or from Barcelona, usually the reaction was, okay, like we don't know who you are calling from Warsaw, we haven't seen you 2 days ago at the startup weekend, we haven't drank a beer together, so like you have to be part of the ecosystem to make deal with me. Yeah? But the COVID really like changed the way how we communicate also when it comes to pitching and making and closing deals. Yeah. So before, like if someone didn't want to come to meet to close a deal with me, wanted to connect on Skype or Zoom, I treated it some kind of a, let's say, offense or ignorance. Yeah. And like COVID made the I would say remote connections and remote deals like it put them like at the top level and equal level of direct meetings. Yeah. So right now I would say the word flattened because of COVID and got much smaller. So everyone has equal chances and equal opportunities. It's all about the match and like the way how you communicate and how you close the deal. But the advantage of being in London or Berlin, it still exists, but not so much as before.
Mm-hmm. Stefano, have you experienced something similar, this level, more level playing field?
I definitely think so. I mean, we've all experienced the fact that we can manage teams remotely, we can manage relationships remotely, we can have, great also outcomes remotely. I mean, I've been telling this story these days. I had a closing lunch with the founder of a company we've invested in and exited during COVID, and that was the first time I met the guy personally when we had the closing lunch 2 days ago. And so it's possible. You can add value even if you're not physically there through your connections, your experience. I mean, you can create empathy and the chemistry that is needed between the investor and the founder and the team. So, I mean, I'm completely with you that COVID showed us that it's doable. And, I mean, Berlin, London, Paris still have an edge, but it has shortened.
We're catching up.
Yeah.
I don't need to repeat. I totally agree with what has been said. The access has been improved. One extra thing I would add is that we have become more efficient as investors as well. Even when meeting we used to travel a lot. Sometimes we realize that traveling to London or Madrid or other places is not needed on a monthly basis. Even locally, when we met with our teams in Greece, we didn't have to go and meet them in person every month. And this actually was a relief, and it made us even more efficient, allowed freed time for us to do more work and improve further.
All right, thank you. So another topic that I think is relevant, and you touched on it, Apostolos, before, is the fact that, I mean, you guys have been pioneers in your respective countries, and there is some sort of, at least in your case, and probably in the case of you guys as well, some sort of commitment, to your country to get things rolling in a way. How do you balance that out, considering that you also have a very international investment approach? I mean, you invest pretty much around Europe, but still probably that commitment to developing, that responsibility that you feel to get your respective ecosystems thriving is still there. How do you do that? I don't know. For instance, you start now, Stefano.
Yeah. Well, as you said, and as Apostolos said, I mean, that there's also a cultural and an emotional part to it. So, I mean, I'm in my 40s, I have kids. I want my country to, be a prosperous place to be. And I want the money I invest to, work there and to create, employment, to create opportunities also in the country I live, and I want my family to develop. And we, as you said, are quite international in our investments, but we always allocate money when there's a return also for Italy or Southern Europe. And we try to invest in Italian founders abroad. We invest in companies abroad that have a scope to grow in Southern Europe or Italy. Because we are active investors, we like to work with the founders we invest in, and if we're just writing checks for something that's happening, very far away from us, and we have a very low touch on it, it doesn't make sense for us. But also because we truly believe that helping also brilliant people, brilliant companies have their roots in the country, in Southern Europe, in Italy, makes the whole ecosystem evolve and create more opportunities for everyone.
Apostolos, same feeling?
For sure, we are committed to support the ecosystem in Greece, and we continue to look for great people. We are meritocratic. That means that we're not going to compromise on the quality of a team or the potential of a startup. We believe that we still support the ecosystem by putting them in touch with other like-minded international European founders. I think this collective understanding of entrepreneurship, of business models, and this interaction helps founders evolve, it has certainly helped us. So we are also serving our ecosystem in that way, by getting them in touch with people, with strong people from Spain, Poland, Italy, etc.
All right. Marcin?
I totally agree. Investing outside your core market is in the benefit of your core market, because you gain much wider experience, know-how. You bring this experience, know-how back. You connect founders and companies from your portfolio. It's beneficial for everyone. It enables also better expansion for your portfolio companies to other geographies. So it's totally obvious, and we try to balance 50% of focus is Poland, Central Eastern Europe, and 50% of resources were invested outside. And when it comes to number of companies, we invested in 24 so far, and it's exactly equal. So 12 abroad and 12 in Poland. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so speaking about these local ecosystems, I know here, just maybe to resonate a little bit with the audience. We have maybe Spain, 5 years behind, Paris, let's say, but maybe 5 years ahead of what is happening in Greece or what is happening in Italy. I'm just making these numbers up. But what, in your opinion, is necessary to further boost or further build these ecosystems? Because, you guys are bringing in the capital, but what else, in your views, is necessary to have these ecosystems thrive and develop over time? And if you are seeing that happening in your home countries, or if you are missing something these days. Apostolos, how you feel about it?
I feel that an ecosystem needs to start from somewhere, and that somewhere is strong founders who have the ambition to create something global. Then they need to convince the next risk takers, who would be employees, who would be willing to leave their jobs that are safe and join them. And then there is capital also required. But if you have very strong people, they will find their way to capital. That's my experience, and that's how we managed to do some things in the beginning when there was no capital available in Greece. So I think there is a way to go ahead by having the right ingredients, the founders. Once we have the first successes, those successes inspire more people, more founders to start, more people, early employees who made money through an exit, also convince other people to join startups. And then capital follows as well, because capital sees that there is an opportunity for them to have returns, and they want to invest more in startups. I think we have this flywheel happening in all of the ecosystems. We are a bit behind, let's say, in Greece indeed, because we have maybe a couple of companies towards the unicorn stage, but we're getting there. I think the right ingredients are in place.
Marcin?
Yeah, so I think it's totally only about the people and talent, and it's about unlocking the barriers of migration of the talent from other entities. Yeah? So we fight against corporations who acquire talent from universities. They give them company cars, give them sports benefits, and it's about making the best graduates and best talents at corporates after 2-3 years thinking, okay, let's try entrepreneurship because I will get easily funded, and if I fail, I can easily go back to my career job. Yeah, so it finally happened in Poland. Let's say like 3 years ago, that the unemployment, it's like, I don't know, 2-3%. It's like the lowest in European Union, so there's no unemployment. There's lots of money on seed, and like the quality of teams of DAX like increased massively. Yeah? So everyone first think about entrepreneurship, and if they fail, they go back to career. So I think this is a breakthrough moment, and it's totally crucial to grow the business. Yeah?
Understood. Anything to add?
Well, I'd like to say something contrarian, but I can just.
You can't.
I can. Well, maybe some other. It's a complex algorithm. I mean, the growth of an ecosystem. It definitely starts with the founders, with the capital they are able to attract. But I mean, you also need other factors. I mean, this thing is definitely a factor. You are able through South Summit to attract investors from all over Europe and US and Asia. You're able to really make the startup ecosystem, the tech, VC, visible to the broader media. The King was here yesterday. It shows also commitment and attention from the higher levels of, I mean, the political agenda. And all those elements need to fall together to really make the ecosystem to grow and reach the levels where the Spanish ecosystem is today and where the French ecosystem, the German ecosystem have reached in the past years. Perfect. Then, I mean, I think Italy is more 2 years behind Spain.
Sorry, I said
five.
Sorry, just 2. Okay. Very good. And maybe just in the interest of time, we have 3 minutes left. But also I wanted to touch on something you just mentioned, is the role of international investors. As these emerging tech hubs develop, you see more international capital interested in these new ecosystems. So how do you perceive these guys, you know, the non-domestic players come in, you know, that in some cases may seem more appealing to entrepreneurs, may have deeper pockets to, you know, which drives valuation higher, but at the same time, there is this symbiotic relationship because also need them to grow in growth stages and so on. So how do you perceive international investors in your respective jurisdictions these days, Marcin? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so definitely it's also totally changed over the last few years. So we see like really top tier funds talking to like companies like from our region, and like I totally like I'm happy with it because it's you know, it's on the one hand it brings more value and capital to the market, so it unlocks the barriers for entrepreneurship, which is my main goal. Yeah, to be in the environment where like the best talent like goes in here, not is stolen by other entities. So that's wonderful. And on the other hand, it also is super beneficial for us because it makes us to be better, to learn from them. And you know, the competition is the thing that moves the world forward. Yeah. So of course sometimes you need to compete and fight against like higher valuations, but that's how it is. That's the word. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Apostolos, anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I believe what's important, the capital is covered as an issue, but what's important is for founders to get learnings. Sometimes international investors have more experiences, so they can share those. So I think it's beneficial for the ecosystems to interact and see where the bar is for international investors. It's beneficial for us as investors to learn and force ourselves to expose ourselves in more interesting cases. So I think it's beneficial for sure.
Thank you. Stefano, anything else?
Definitely, it's an element that makes the ecosystem grow. Then it's not a given that deeper pockets means better interactions with your investor counterpart as a founder. So, I mean, founders need to understand what elements of the equation are there to choose the right money to grow at the different stages. but definitely with more capital, more international investors, there are chances to also get funded at the next level, which, for instance, in the Italian ecosystem, is something that has always lacked. So companies grow up to the Series B, and then there was no one in the field. Now there are players that give continuity to the value chain and help things go to, I mean, the dimensions that, I mean, everyone as a founder should aspire to.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, we are right on time. 10 seconds to go. So our MC will be happy with us. Thanks very much for being here today, and we'll be keeping an eye on these emerging tech hubs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.